History and discovery of the newspaper, the paper that refused to be silenced. Introduction. Hello, my dear learner. I want to start today with a moment that happens to almost everyone. You are sitting somewhere, maybe drinking your morning tea, maybe waiting for a bus, and your phone buzzes. A headline, a piece of news, something happening far away that somehow feels close, feels important, feels like something you needed to know. Have you ever stopped to ask, who found that story? Who risked something to get that truth to you? Who decided that you, an ordinary person going about your ordinary day, deserved to know what was really happening in the world? That question has a 400-year answer, and that answer is the story of the newspaper. Today, I am going to tell you the story of a piece of paper that changed human civilization forever. A piece of paper so powerful that kings feared it, governments banned it, and brave people died defending it. And a piece of paper so relevant that everything it stood for is fighting for its life right now, today, in the world you are living in. This story is about your right to know the truth. It is about courage, about what happens when ordinary people get access to information that was once kept only for the powerful, and about what we must protect before it disappears. Let us begin. Part 1. A world without news, only silence and rumors. Before newspapers existed, most ordinary people knew almost nothing about the world beyond their own village. Information was a luxury. If you were powerful, a king, a priest, a wealthy merchant, you had messengers and letters. You knew what was happening. You could plan, decide, and act accordingly. But if you were an ordinary person, a farmer, a craftsman, a mother, you lived in a fog of rumors and half-truths. Stories twisted as they passed from mouth to mouth. Lies spread like fire. Truth died somewhere on the road. The powerful understood something important. If ordinary people do not know what is happening, they cannot question it. They cannot resist it. They cannot change it. Controlling information meant controlling people. And for most of human history, that is exactly what happened. The first tiny crack in this wall appeared in ancient Rome, around 59 BCE, when Julius Caesar ordered daily government announcements to be written on wooden boards and displayed in public. Romans could walk past and read what their leaders had decided. It was not a newspaper, but it was the first small radical idea that perhaps ordinary people deserved to know. That lesson, more than 2,000 years old, is still the foundation of every free society today. Part 2. The first newspapers. 4 pages that changed everything. The true newspaper was born in 1605 in the city of Strasbourg in what is today Germany. A printer named Johann Carolus began publishing a weekly collection of news stories, 4 pages, printed once a week, covering trade, political events, and military movements. It was small, it was modest, and it was revolutionary. For the first time, a person sitting in a small German town could read about events happening in Italy or Spain in the same week those events occurred. The wall between the powerful and the ordinary had developed its first real crack. Within decades, newspapers were appearing across Europe, in England, France, and the Netherlands, each one reaching further into the lives of ordinary people, each one saying, quietly but firmly, you have the right to know what is happening in your world. and governments were immediately afraid, because they understood an informed citizen asks questions, an informed citizen demands answers, an informed citizen is much harder to control. The battles between newspapers and power began almost immediately, and they have never truly stopped.
The lesson here is simple and permanent. When ordinary people have access to truthful information, the entire balance of power shifts. Knowledge shared freely is the beginning of freedom itself. Part 3. The printer who went to prison for the truth. The most important moment in newspaper history happened in a small New York courtroom in 1735. A German immigrant printer named John Peter Zenger was publishing a newspaper that criticized the corrupt governor of New York, a man who was abusing his power and stealing from ordinary people. Zenger printed the truth, and for that he was arrested, thrown into prison, and put on trial for the crime of criticizing the government. His lawyer, the brilliant Andrew Hamilton, stood before the jury and said something that was dangerously radical at that time. He said, "The truth is not a crime. If what Zenger printed was true, it could not be a crime to print it." The jury, 12 ordinary men, agreed. Zenger was free. That verdict established something that would echo through history. A free press, a newspaper willing to tell the truth without fear, is not the enemy of good government. It is the guardian of it. 40 years later, when America's founders wrote the First Amendment, guaranteeing freedom of the press, they were standing on the foundation that Zenger and his lawyer had built in that small courtroom.
The lesson: wherever you are, whatever country you live in, the freedom to speak true things out loud is one of the most precious freedoms that exists. It was paid for by people who went to prison for it. Never treat it casually. Part 4. 2 reporters and a president who had to resign. Newspapers did not just report history, they made it. In 1972, 2 young reporters at the Washington Post newspaper, Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein, began following a small, seemingly minor story about a break-in at a political office in Washington. Something felt wrong. They kept asking questions. They kept finding threads. They kept pulling, even when powerful people threatened them, even when their editor was pressured to stop them. What they found, after months of careful, persistent, courageous reporting, was that the President of the United States himself, Richard Nixon, the most powerful man in the world, had been involved in covering up crimes against his political opponents. Nixon resigned from the presidency because of 2 reporters with notebooks and pens who refused to stop asking honest questions. That story, called Watergate, became the most famous example of what a free press can do in a democracy. It proved that no one, not even the most powerful leader in the world, is above being held accountable by a journalist determined to find the truth.
The lesson: one person who refuses to stop asking honest questions can hold the entire world accountable. You do not need power or position. You need curiosity, courage, and the refusal to accept silence as an answer. Part 5. Newspapers today and the truth you owe yourself. Today, in 2026, the newspaper faces the greatest challenge in its 400-year history. The internet changed everything. News that once took a day to print now travels the world in seconds. Social media gives everyone a platform. Anyone can publish anything. And in this flood of endless information, lies travel faster than truth
Outrage spreads faster than accuracy, and it has become genuinely difficult for ordinary people to know what is real. Traditional newspapers are struggling. Many have closed. Journalism jobs are disappearing. And in the spaces left behind, misinformation is filling in. But here is what has not changed and will never change. The world still needs people who find the truth, who verify it carefully, who present it fairly, who hold the powerful accountable.
And the world needs readers who care enough to support that work, readers who think carefully before they share something, readers who ask, who wrote this? What is their evidence? Is this actually true? In a world where everyone can publish, your ability to think critically about what you read is not just a nice skill. It is how you protect your own mind from being used by people who want to mislead you. The newspaper spent 400 years fighting for your right to know the truth. Now, that responsibility is partly yours. Ending. What you learned. My dear learner, what a remarkable journey we have taken together today. We stood in a world where ordinary people knew almost nothing, where information belonged to the powerful and silence belonged to everyone else. We watched 4 modest pages printed in Strasbourg in 1605 crack open a door that would never fully close. We sat in a New York courtroom and heard a lawyer declare that truth is not a crime, and felt the whole world shift a little.
We followed 2 young reporters, pulling one small thread until it reached the most powerful office on earth. And we arrived here, in a present moment where truth and lies travel at exactly the same speed, and where your ability to tell them apart may be the most important skill you will ever develop. Let me leave these lessons gently inside you as you go. The first lesson: you deserve to know the truth. Do not let anyone convince you that staying uninformed is safer, simpler, or more peaceful. Curiosity about what is really happening in your world is not dangerous. It is dignity. The second lesson: asking questions is not disrespectful. It is responsible. The greatest moments of progress in human history came from people who refused to accept the official story without evidence. Ask questions. Keep asking. Truth can handle questions. Only lies need silence. The third lesson: one honest, persistent person can change everything. Zenger was one printer. Woodward and Bernstein were 2 reporters. They had no armies, no special power, just the courage to tell the truth and refuse to stop. You have that same courage. Use it. The fourth lesson: go slow with information. Read carefully. Check before you share. Think before you believe. Your attention is one of the most valuable things you own, and there are many people today trying to steal it with half-truths and emotional headlines.
Thank you. Thank you genuinely and completely for your time, your attention, and your growing curious mind. You are learning English, which means you are opening a wider window onto the world. Every new word gives you a sharper, clearer view of what is happening beyond your immediate life. That is a gift and a responsibility. Use this language to seek truth, to ask better questions, to understand more deeply. The newspaper gave ordinary people a voice when they had none. Now, that voice is yours. Keep going, dear learner. I will be here with another story whenever you are ready.